It's the WTIM Morning Show. I'm Avery Cooper. Glad to have you along. Your stream brought to you by Landmark of Taylorville, where you always do better with Landmark. And People's Bank and Trust. They put people first. You'll find those streams online on the TaylorvilleDailyNews.com Facebook or on YouTube at WTIM TV. Well, the 102nd General Assembly is out and over, and the 103rd is underway in Springfield. And well, there's a lot of stuff to talk about, including the very last session for the 102nd, aka the lame duck session. And now they're in session with the 103rd. And here to talk all about it and everything that the General Assembly has done over the past month or so, I have Professor Emeritus with University of Illinois Springfield Political Science Department, Dr. Kent Redfield. Welcome back.
Good to be here.
So let's go ahead and review the lame duck session. What are some of the things that happened during that lame duck session? Actually, we can get to that in a moment. First, what is a lame duck session?
And that's an old term when you have, there's a point at which you've got the legislature, it comes in after an election. And so you've got members who have been defeated or have decided not to seek re-election, but they're still part of the body. Don't have the new legislature. They're the ones that are voting. And for some reason back in the day, people started to refer to those legislators as lame ducks. They were people that, they were around just for this short period of time and on their way out. And what it, and the reality is it allows the legislature to sometimes deal with controversial bills and get the votes of members who are not coming back, and that's so that it's taken on, but that was the original the idea was that these were people that were no longer in power, but they were still able to vote. But that's the important thing is that they still vote. And so, controversial legislation gets passed by people who, are going to be out of office in a matter of a month, or in the case of some of the bills passed this week, literally days, hours before their term ended, they were voting on legislation.
What were some of the bills that passed during lame duck? I know on the top of a lot of the news headlines, reproductive rights were among the topic. Also, the ban of assault weapons. Anything else I'm missing here?
Yeah, there were some significant things. We put money into a specific fund that the governor was pushing to try to attract more, particularly electrical vehicle manufacturers. And so they've given him a tool where he can, direct the money in terms of putting together packages to try to attract specific business to Illinois. And that's a big, there's a lot of competition between states. And so, that was an important thing. In terms of people's day-to-day lives, something that was significant was, they passed a law that requires, workers in companies that have 4 or more employees will now qualify for 5 days of paid leave for, any reason. Your child gets sick, you have to, you get a health emergency, they're just the minor crisis sorts of things. And so that's peace of mind for people that they're not going to lose their job, choose between losing their job and dealing with family situations. But, it is unpaid leave. So, you're losing wages. But then employers will have to deal with, that situation where, they can't tell a person, fire someone for not coming in, when they've got some kind of health crisis or something. And that was negotiated with the Chamber of Commerce, with the business groups, retail merchants. And so it's, I think it's part of where now it's harder to get people to take jobs and to stay at jobs. And so, post-pandemic. So we're trying to, be more, make work more attractive, but it is, you're always making trade-offs between, what are you doing for people, the workers, the individual citizens, and then, what kind of pressure does that put on employers? So, and you might notice that a lot more than some of the other more high profile things may not affect you directly that much. But that's something that pretty much anybody with a that works regularly now comes on in Illinois comes under that provision.
What, if any, were some of the big challenges to implementing the bill to mandate employers to give their employees 5 days of PTO?
Oh, it's always a scheduling issue and stuff, and I if you go to often when you go to small stores, you go to restaurants, they're obviously having trouble getting staffing and stuff. And so, but long term they want to keep employees and they like to have dependable employees. And but short term, it means that you have to, you've got to accommodate your schedule to deal with that. So it's a management issue in terms of people, and the smaller the business you are, the less flexibility you have in terms of, the Walmart superstore. One being down an employee is not as significant as the, the small diner that has, is already short staffed.
Long story short, though, employees have 5 days of PTO now, as effective as of.
I believe this is effective immediately, but that's always an issue with most of the stuff that passed was all with immediate effective dates. Now this, but I no don't again. It's
Yeah.
not unusual for them to plug in, some kind of notice provision and stuff so that everybody's on board. And I guess I would not be surprised if that was, if we're talking about something that's got a 2 month, 3 month, kind of delay, 6 month delay in it.
Anything else that happened in the lame duck session that impacts the day-to-day lives of ordinary people?
The major things were that they obviously they cleaned up a lot of the provisions that were caused people problems with the cash bail and the Safety Act, the reproductive rights issues dealing with abortion. That's going to have a big impact on as Illinois becomes really kind of an island in the Midwest in terms of where people's access to abortion has not been severely restricted
Right.
after the Supreme Court threw out Roe. And so those are, and then this working right now, the assault weapon ban is not, that we don't know how that's going to work in terms of the mechanics, and we don't know what's going to work in terms of the litigation because there will be lawsuits. So a lot of uncertainty there because the Supreme Court has signaled they're much more sympathetic to cases that say that objections to restrictions on Second Amendment rights, but we really don't have the specifics in terms of how they're going to deal with a particular provision. We are now one of 9 states that has pretty much a general assault weapon ban, and there's litigation working its way through the courts. They're not all the same, and so we really don't know what's going to happen. And the other part of that, I mean, so there's a ban on manufacture, delivery, transfer, selling of these weapons that are defined in the law. If everyone that owns a weapon or a large magazine for for either a long gun or a handgun, everybody's grandfathered in. There is a provision that you're supposed to, register these to show that you bought them before the effective date of the law. That's probably going to be the most, the most noise is going to come from that. But it's the sort of thing where the enforcement's only going to be incidental to someone in the course of some kind of a search of your house for with a drug raid and there's an assault weapon, and then there's a question of, well, was this, did you recently acquire this, which would be against the law, or is this something that you legally bought, a year ago or whatever? I mean, so there's a lot to be worked through in terms of this beyond just, I mean, there's a lot of rhetoric to pro and against the general provisions, but the mechanics of these are all that's difficult. And the court situation, what this court will or will not allow is just gets defined case by case. And so it's going to be a couple of years before we really know exactly what states or localities, home rule units like in cities in Illinois, can and cannot do. It's people will tell you, well, it's unconstitutional. No, it's not. Until the Supreme Court tells you, you really can't say that with any surety.
And we're talking about the U.S. Supreme Court here, which,
Yeah,
if
yeah,
there are major challenges, is likely where that will head. I want to get your a little bit more of an overview of some of the things that happened with the reproductive rights stuff, and also maybe some other provisions of the Safety Act that are already implemented. But we got to take a quick time out. That's Professor Emeritus, Political Science Department with the University of Illinois Springfield, Dr. Kent Redfield. Here's here on the WTIM Morning Show, which People's Bank and Trust is proud to present the stream for the WTIM Morning Show on the TaylorvilleDailyNews.com Facebook and WTIM TV YouTube. They put people first, along with Landmark of Taylorville. You always do better with Landmark. It's the WTIM Morning Show.
WTIM. Your information station, WTIM.
WTIM Morning Show. I'm Avery Cooper. Your stream brought to you by Landmark of Taylorville. You always do better with Landmark, and People's Bank and Trust. They put people first. I have Professor Emeritus with the Political Science Department at University of Illinois Springfield, Dr. Kent Redfield. Great to talk to you, Kent, about all the great things going on in the Illinois legislature and the General Assembly. We talked about a lot that went over in that the General Assembly went over in that lame duck session. You mentioned a little bit about reproductive rights. I wanted to get your recap of what that bill entails and where it stands. Last I heard they passed it, but where is it right now?
Okay. Yes. No. And I don't know that the governor has signed it, and that really isn't an issue. In terms of the timing of this, people say, well, the legislature is adjourned. Does that mean that bills that pass that, but the governor hasn't signed are dead? And they're not. Governor has 30 days to act on a piece of legislation, and that doesn't. The fact that the old General Assembly doesn't exist. I mean, if he were to veto a bill, there would be no legislature to return it to. So, a veto of a bill would be final. But other than that, so no. And so this is providing legal protection for providers. There are going to be issues until this gets sorted out at the with probably through again federal court decisions. There are going to be issues about can Missouri can someone coming from out of state, what is their legal status in terms of if you you rob a bank in Missouri and you come to Illinois, Missouri, and get detained by law enforcement for whatever reason, Missouri can extradite you back to face charges for the crime that you've committed in Missouri. If abortion is illegal in Missouri and you come to Illinois and obtain an abortion, then it's pretty clear that Illinois has no obligation to extradite someone for something they did in Illinois, which is perfectly legal, which is illegal in Missouri. We're going to have all of those and so there's essentially there civil shield laws that they were talking about. There are provisions in there for providing increased resources for communities along the Missouri border and along the borders of Illinois. There are provisions involving trying to increase the number of providers. So I mean, this is a continuation of where the legislature is very supportive of reproductive rights and also conscious that we're kind of an island here in the Midwest.
That's Dr. Kent Redfield with University of Illinois Political Science Department. He's a professor emeritus. Thank you so much, Doctor.
Thank you.